Hello, Knights fans. Welcome to another edition of the Daily Knight. I am your host, Brian Smith, and I'm also the publisher at Inside the Knights on Fan Nation, powered by Sports Illustrated. Today's edition is going to talk a little bit about injuries, the impact they've had, and raising the expectations for the final three games of the 2021 season for your UCF Knights. Here's how it's going to work. Talk about what happened leading in, talk about some of the impacts, what they can mean for UCF in terms of improving, not just this year, but next in a lot of ways. But specifically, the best part of this, how the injuries have actually helped in a very odd kind of way for the final three games, and most importantly for the SMU game, the most talented team they're going to play for the rest of this season in the regular season, coming up this Saturday in Dallas. So let's get to it. The number one point, what's going on with injuries? I do not know before anybody messages me or asks me what's going on with Dylan, Jalen, Isaiah, etc. Need to see them out on the field actually during the game itself, not in warmups. The reason I bring that up is a lot of guys have been in warmups and then didn't play this year. Jalen this past game, and then I know Barber's tried to do it. Matthew Lee's tried to do it. UCF is incredibly conservative. If a guy's not completely ready, they're not going to put him out there. It's just their style. With that being stated, we're looking at a situation you're going up against an SMU team that can score. They can flat out score. And UCF's defense played tremendous recently. Tremendous. 8 points per game over the last three is the average, as they give up 7, 7, and 10. That is just flat out awesome. Now, can you find a way to do that if your stud running back is not in the game? We don't know what Bowser's going to play. Don't know if Dylan's going to play. Probably Jalen, based on he tried to go this past weekend, but did not. But if Bowser's not out there, can you win the game without him? And they've got good running back depth. I feel confident, but he's a workhorse that knows how to plow forward. And Tulane laid the groundwork for what other teams are going to do, probably, because their rush defense is terrible, but they just said to heck with it. And they threw the kitchen sink at Mikey Keene, the freshman quarterback. Very smart, by the way. They did a great job of throwing exotics and different things that UCF did not see coming because they didn't run them earlier this year. They changed their scheme. You're not going to be prepared for that. Let's just put everybody at the line of scrimmage and play really aggressive defense like an NFL team that's top 5 in the league in NFL defense. UCF wasn't ready for that. It was a bit of a surprise. UCF still found a way to win, but I can guarantee you that SMU is going to copy a lot of that, because they'll sign off right now on giving up 14 points because they're not going to lose if they give up 14. I guarantee you UCF has zero chance. So what do the Knights do if he doesn't play? How do you overcome? That's what I'm going to talk about in segment 2. But to get to that, keep in mind the following. We're talking about a team that went through the Louisville game. Matt Lee tried to go, couldn't. Dylan got hurt at the end of it. Bowser got hurt in the first half. Jalen got hurt sometime in the midpoint of the game. I can't remember if it was second quarter, third quarter. Barber, same thing. He came out at defensive tackle. Tatum Bethune missed part of the game and then missed the next game. Corey Thornton went out in the first quarter. I mean, this is ridiculous how many injuries they went through. It was just incredible. The only thing good about any of that for the team, backups got an opportunity to come into the lineup and make a difference. They've gained experience. Gus Malzahn made a very prudent point after the press conference on Saturday night. He talked about now the players and the coaches can really kind of say, we know each other. It's not just sort of, or maybe, or could be. At this juncture, you do know what's going on, or you're just not figuring it out because the information's been over and over and over and over again so many times, it's just osmosis. UCF has figured it out, because consider the following. Even with Dylan not in the lineup and the offense not doing as well, not always giving the defense a good situation with field position, etc., they've given up 8 points per game in the last 3 games. On average, they gave up 7 to Memphis, they gave up 7 to Temple, and they gave up 10 to Tulane. 24 points total, 3 games, that's 8 points per game. Further, they've held all 3 of those opponents to below 300 yards. Kalia didn't play any of those games, and I'll argue with anybody, he is their best defensive player, hands down. Now, Barber's been back, and that helps. Make no mistake, that helps. But Kalia is a game changer because if you don't double him or kind of focus on him, he can wreck your offense, on during any given play. They've still figured it out. Tatum Bethune, he's been out at different points, or Bryson Armstrong just comes out of the game, whatever. You got guys rotating in and out, so you've gotten a little experience for other guys, but they've really went through it across the board in secondary, etc. Now everybody's gotten their feet wet, and the defense is kind of figuring it out. On offense, it's much the same. This past game was Mikey Keene's 6th start. 6th. And in the last 2 games, 229 yards passing, if I remember correctly, in each. 5 touchdowns, then 2 touchdowns, only 1 pick, and that was against Temple. He has really, really raised his level of play. Against SMU, all that needs to be remembered because of the following. As I mentioned, they can score. They can score, and they can score. You have to keep them off the field. I know UCF's defense is good, but you have to keep them off the field. There is no second place for that. If they keep you on the field over and over and you start poorly, this is very important for UCF. Cannot get behind. SMU is going to be ticked off. They did not play well in their last game. They lost. It was an opportunity they cannot return. So they're going to try to take it out on UCF, who goes to Dallas this next Saturday and plays at noon Eastern time. Well, maybe they can't because UCF just takes it from them. It's still a football game that you line up and you kick it off. It's played between the white lines. And for segment 2, something to think about here. Will UCF match the intensity that SMU is going to play with? Again, the reason I bring this up is they choked off an opportunity to win a game and be right there, stay ranked, etc. They didn't get it done. SMU is going to be ticked. UCF has won their last few games. They're playing well. They're doing everything right. They got 3-game winning streak. Don't pat yourself on the back. Without question, out of the final 3 games, this is the best team they're going to play, SMU. I know Gus will talk up the other 2 teams garbage. This is by far the best team they're going to play the rest of the way. It's not competitive. SMU is by far the best, and it's in their house. So those injuries that I brought up, the reason I'm trying to mix these two, all those younger players and stuff coming in, are they going to be fired up? Are they going to be as ready as SMU? I want you to think about that as I go into segment 2. And I'm going to give a couple of thoughts on it because it's a very important opportunity for UCF if they win this game. Here's how I look at it. For every guy like Tremont Morris-Brash that came back into the lineup is doing things, and he played really well against Tulane. For every guy that came into the lineup and did something really well like Quadric Ford, he had another great game. There was one in particular tackle he made in the open space. Fantastic. For every chance like that, that all builds, and you just get more and more confidence. Johnny Richardson making guys miss on a screen, having the opportunity for Alec Holler to make a catch, dive forward, get a first down. You can see little bits and pieces. Younger players are familiar with the scheme. The coaches are comfortable with them. Things are just coming together over and over. Every position, you can point to little things. That's its own type of momentum, confidence, and quite frankly, the belief that you're just going to win. UCF needs that from this point forward in every game. You always need it, but it's realistic right now. And then there's the possibility, does Bowser play? I don't know. I don't know if Dylan's going to play. I don't know if Jalen's going to play or how much. Those things take care of themselves during the game. I need to see it like everybody else does. I'm sure Gus Malzahn will try to talk about it during his press conference to a certain degree, but he's not going to just hand over the information to SMU. So I don't put a lot of stock in the injury updates. Coaches, they don't want people to know. There's not a nice way to say it. They just don't. Gus does a pretty good job, but I mean, I know he's not going to give us everything. And that's what I want. Unless it's 100%, I don't care. So with that being stated, motivation is the biggest part of this game. Mikey Keene should be fired up as much, if not more, than any player on SMU's roster because he can get the naysayers off of him. Just wipe them away. You go 3 straight games playing well, there's nothing left to say. People can't make reference to saying we need Dylan back if he can start throwing for over 200 every game and making clutch throws. He made that throw he threw to Brandon for the touchdown, the 23-yarder. Could not have thrown it better. On the money. Now, what else can he do to help elevate? And it's not just the passes. The common fan will talk about that. That's garbage. Most fans, quite frankly, don't have a clue how quarterback play works. Making checks at the line, setting protections, and making sure guys know what they're doing. Those three things come before he ever puts the ball in his hand. That's just the nature of quarterback, and it's why it's so hard. I'm going to be paying attention to his body language quite a bit, some of the things that he does and does not do. And finally, I'm going to be taking a real close eye at how the other players react to him, especially early in the game, because it's a circumstance where UCF is in a situation, if they can get an early lead, there's no reason to believe that they're not going to do really, really well. They've proven that they can score points in bunches, but it usually starts early when it happens, by and large. SMU doesn't have a defensive-minded team, but their defense does hold an advantage if their offense is playing well. They get a lead, you can pass rush more because you're forced to pass more. UCF needs to play with the lead, or, like a 3-point game where your offense is in a situation where the entire playbook is still available to you, with or without Isaiah Bowser being in the lineup. UCF does not have a team that's going to just dominate with talent, but it is pretty talented, and I think they're a little bit undervalued that way. I'm hoping that's another motivator, by the way. They're not ranked. SMU just recently was. I'm sure that Coach Malzahn and his staff are going to mention that. I would. Can they do it? Sure. And the final point to this segment 2, if you win this game, you have UConn and USF remaining after that. Neither one of them should come within 10 points of UCF. Right now, you can put it on a bulletin board that other teams can. I don't care. They're not as talented. Flat out. This is not a coaching thing. This is a player thing. Coaches will take the blame because that's what fans do. You can get rid of coaches. You can't get rid of players. It's not the same. Can't just change your roster. You're stuck with who you got. But this is about players. They need to be motivated no matter what happens with SMU for the last 2 games. And they should be right there with SMU in this game. But this is an interesting opportunity. If you win this and you win 4 in a row, with that defense, it's only allowed 8 points per game over the last 3, by the way, you set yourself up for a 9-3 season, one in which you had a bazillion injuries and just weird things happen really early in the year. Would you have taken that 9-3? Would you have taken that 9-3? I would have. Reasonable fans would. There's still some fans on different sections of the internet that are claiming that UCF's offense isn't doing enough. Really, considering all the things that go into it, is it perfect? No, not by a long shot, but try losing 3 NFL players at skill positions and see how well your offense would run. That being stated, the final point here, I expect UCF to win this week, and I'm flat going to tell you right now, I'm picking them to beat SMU with or without Isaiah Bowser, because I have enough belief from being around the coaching staff and the players' press conferences and just watching them. The system has come together. So that spoiler alert is out there, but I'm picking UCF unless something else weird happens. I don't know what else could, but heck, even Gus got hurt in a play this week. I mean, it has been a weird year. So I'm picking UCF to beat SMU, and a lot of that is just motivation. And I've talked about this over and over and over again in this podcast. I couldn't say it 1,000 times and say it enough. SMU is going to be ticked off. These are the kind of games that reporters love because you have so many different storylines. If you are not motivated to play in a game that's going to set up what bowl game you go to, your opportunity to be scouted, the scouts in the NFL level, what games are they going to watch? The better teams, especially like UCF's DBs, their pass rushers. You guys, if you don't come out ready to play against SMU, there is something freaking wrong with you. SMU can sling it. SMU has skill guys. You're going to have to tackle in space. You're going to have to read screens. All the little things that make NFL teams think about whether they should or should not draft you are going to happen in this game. Cannot wait. And I'm not going to be very shy if UCF fails in that. I'll let it rip. Do not care one iota If you play like crap, I will write that you played like crap, and vice versa. If you play good, I'll write you played good. It's going to come down to motivation. So with that, I'm going to get out of here, but please note that this is a very fun game. You should look into every possible stat you can for this game. I'm going to be putting up a lot more stats this week, throughout the week at Inside the Nights. Going to be also talking a lot of high school football. The playoffs have started. I'm going to be in Georgia. I'm going to be in South Carolina, Florida, all over this week. Going to be scouting and hopefully find out some new players coming up the ranks. That's why I go out on the road. This week is no exception. Trying to get it to a couple of different states to check things out beyond Florida and have some fun. But anyway, everybody have a safe day and go Knights. I'll talk to you soon.